So it was just a really rough time. Part of the chaplaincy team for the Oakland Raiders. She walks in the room and she just starts bawling, just crying.
I felt so broken as a woman. It's the only thing I ever wanted was to be a mom.
Why? I lost my mom. My dad's never been around my life.
I would just cry all day long. Just kind of felt like there was a silence in our marriage.
We just kept praying and fighting for it. It was about 3 years into our marriage where we started saying, hey, let's pray and let's just see if the Lord will begin to bless us with children. And that was always a big dream of ours for the vision of our family. I'll never forget, I was at a camp speaking to this youth church. I came home from 3 days of speaking. I think it was midnight. I was tired, I was exhausted. I literally threw my bags down. I just fell back on our bed. She walks in the room and she just starts bawling, just crying. Oh my gosh, what is going on? She went to the doctor. The doctor said, look, I hate to tell you this, but you're most likely never gonna have kids, and you need to understand that.
I just had a regular annual checkup with my doctor. Told me that I had an autoimmune issue called polycystic ovarian syndrome,
which is the leading cause of women's infertility. She's crying, I'm crying.
It was very surreal for me to have to tell Chris that we might have some trouble, and we might have already been having trouble and we just didn't know.
There's just something in my spirit that was like, we're not gonna take that news. We're gonna believe for greater. We're gonna believe God to do something greater, that's His will for us to have family. We literally got on our knees and I'm like, we're gonna pray and just believe God to have His hand on our life. We had our church praying for us. Every night I would lay my hands on her stomach and speak life over, into her womb and just believe in God for a miracle. We got pregnant the first time. We were so excited. We're pregnant, this is it, this is God.
He was very excited. I didn't quite accept it at that point. I didn't want to get my hopes up.
I remember my pastor going, it's Father's Day is coming up. Would you share your testimony that you guys got pregnant? Absolutely. I get up on stage, congregation of 8,000 members.
He was on the platform doing announcements and he announces that we're pregnant.
God healed my wife, miracle baby, this is amazing.
And I'm sitting in service and I felt like everybody turned toward me. I was like, okay, this is happening.
Everybody's cheering, going nuts.
Thousands of people in service.
We lost the baby.
Had to untell the news. And
man, it was just like, the wind knocked out of us. I didn't even know people lost babies. I had no idea. And then just being at church and everybody seeing us at church going, oh my gosh, we're so happy for you. Hey, you know what? Thank you, but man, we actually lost our baby, and man, pray for us. So it was just a really rough time.
I grew up in San Jose, California, in the Bay Area. My parents separated when I was 2, right when my brother was born.
I was born in New Jersey to a blended family. I have a half-sister and 2 half-brothers. When I was about 3, my father divorced our family and made some choices to take off. And so I grew up with just my mom and my stepsister.
My mom worked sometimes 2 and 3 jobs and on weekends and very random jobs that had nothing to do with themselves just to be able to pay the bills and put food on the table.
I grew up a mama's boy. She taught me how to play sports as best she could. She put me in every sport, so I was good at everything, not great at one.
My dad was very much in my life. I had a great relationship with my dad.
When I was about 9, she was diagnosed with cancer. When I just graduated 5th grade, my mom took her last breath here.
In my family, typically the marriages either end or they're really unhealthy.
I started rebelling, had a lot of hurt, a lot of pain, started, being angry towards my dad and God and just my situation. And so I ended up moving to San Jose, California with my godparents.
When I was in junior high, I gave my life to the Lord at a Good Friday service, and it was a very overwhelming, instant, easy decision.
I was definitely hurting and pursuing other things as partying and trying to be popular and hang out and follow in the crowd. a local youth pastor would come onto my campus. Hey, you want to miss a couple of days of school and take off on a camp? For the first time, really encountered God. And it was a life-changing moment for me. And I came back, didn't really know what to do next, but just knew that God was real, knew that God was after my heart, after my life. I decided to go to Bible college. One of my mentors and I, we met a professional football player at a mall, and we just encouraged him and just said, hey man, you made the greatest decision of your life. We knew you'd become a Christian, and built a relationship with him. He eventually asked my mentor to be the full-time chaplain for the Oakland Raiders. So I assisted him and worked with him, part of the chaplaincy team for the next 12 seasons.
I met Chris at church. He was interning when I was serving as an adult leader. I kind of always grew up with this sense of feeling a little unsafe around men. Abuse as a child from different men that were around the family. I just never felt unsafe around Chris. And I think because I felt safe with him, it allowed me to develop feelings that I just didn't allow myself to feel ever before. So he was my first boyfriend, the first guy I ever loved. Like, he's just always been it.
I had never really been around a girl that was beautiful, but really had a heart to serve God.
We knew that we had similar upbringings. We had a lot of good examples of what not to do.
My family's background, there's just tons of divorce, and from generation to generation.
Always yearned for normal family life, and we just wanted desperately to get it right. Family life and kids were very important to both of us. Our first 3 pregnancies ended in miscarriage. After every miscarriage, it kind of just, the blows hit different.
Very hurt, trying to figure out, God, heal us. We're still believing. We're still going to believe.
I felt so broken as a woman, like the one thing that I can do as a woman, like I just couldn't do.
My wife being afraid of saying, man, I'm afraid to get pregnant again.
It's the only thing I ever wanted was to be a mom, and to feel that defeated.
God, I've given my life to do ministry, to live for you, to help other people, to have faith. All these just thoughts of why I lost my mom. My dad's never been around my life.
It just kind of felt like there was a silence in our marriage for a little while about the subject, and he gave me the space to say that I don't want to do this right now. My body's just done. My mind is done. He was very patient and very understanding.
As I'm working with the Raiders and just being transparent even to the team, a player goes, hey, we have a doctor that's connected to the Raiders that she's a naturopath. Man, we can't afford it. I know how much they are. And he goes, no, we want to help pay and get this. We want you to see her. It's how much we believe in it. She basically just said, hey, the way God's created us is if we can get you healthy, the natural result is getting pregnant. And she actually changed her whole diet, which means I had to change my diet because she cooks. And we started seeing results like within 2 months of her migraines being gone and her asthma being gone, and then getting a normal cycle.
Before I knew it, I was pregnant again. I kind of was able to accept it a little easier, but I didn't want to get my hopes up at the same time.
I was excited again and nervous at the same time.
I knew that I had to rely on God to just sustain me and sustain this pregnancy.
We just knew that was God's heart for us to have a family, and we just knew it, and we just kept praying and fighting for it.
Chris was out of town doing a youth conference. My water broke, and I remember kind of being in denial about it. I think any woman who's had a miscarriage or a stillbirth or any kind of loss of a child, you just it just doesn't sink in until the baby is actually born. Everybody's like, I think we should call Chris because he's a couple hours away. I was like, no, let me go to the hospital first. I'll check. And sure enough, we went, and I was starting labor. Maya was breech, so I was definitely gonna have a C-section. So we had some time. I couldn't get a hold of him. He might miss her being born, and this is like the child that we've waited for.
But I made it and was able to get in there and be there for the C-section. And as soon as they pulled her out, it was here, the miracle that we had believed for and prayed for. It changed my life when I held her in my hands. I flashed back to me growing up, and I bought my first car. I paid for my own college, and immediately my way of thinking just changed, and said, I want the best for my kid. I want to be able to provide and all those things. So those things were just driving me every day.
When she was born, I remember feeling very protective of her, but I honestly didn't have that like wave of emotion of love and like euphoria, like my baby's here. I would have days where I would just cry all day long. I remember looking at her when she's sleeping and she's healthy and fine. It didn't make sense to me why I felt the way that I felt. I was going through postpartum anxiety and depression. I just didn't know it at the time. I became more intentional of sharing a little bit more with Chris how I was feeling. I kind of reverted back to like the childhood issues that I've had and feeling like I have, you know, when things happen to you when you're little and you are defenseless and innocent, there's a sense of security that's completely lost through talking with Chris. Like, this is not how it should be. Like, we should be so happy and on cloud nine and enjoying this baby. And he's like, we have this child. Like, she deserves for us to enjoy this time. So then reintroducing like my intimacy with God back into my life really started changing the situation. I would only listen to worship music. I would have daily devotions. We would pray together every night. I don't think it was any one specific moment. It was really a process, and eventually I didn't have to think about it so much. It just was natural, our day of putting God first. I just felt him more in my life, and I felt the love and the bonding happen with my daughter. My second baby, Aria Noel, the second she came out was just amazing. Everything that I was hoping to feel, I felt. I was so in love with her. I was so happy and like deep-seated joy.
It was great to see my wife respond and be excited and full of love and joy.
And I didn't sleep for like 2.5 days, but I didn't even care. She was so beautiful and such a good baby. We had finally had the opportunity to have like the delivery that we'd always wanted, and Maya was so excited to have her baby sister. Diego, when we found out we were having a boy, I've never been happier. His delivery was textbook. It was the best of them all.
It was just a really cool moment, and just thinking back, don't start crying, you're gonna cry. But just thinking back of what we've been through, and that we had family there. I mean, everything just worked out so perfect. I am a full-time minister. I work in sports ministry, get to mentor athletes and disciple them.
I am a full-time stay-at-home mom, and I am also a wedding photographer. I homeschool. I knew I was going to stay home with them, but homeschooling was something I said I would absolutely never do. It turned out to be a really good decision.
Black. Where's red?
Chris does a really good job at making himself available for the kids when he gets home.
I love reading books and playing and just having fun with the kids.
We try to have breakfast together in the morning and dinner together every evening. I want us to be able to get around the table together at least once, if not twice a day. We have a pretty solid bedtime routine. Read books, hang out, really have the TV off, the phones off. Not really have any distractions, to be able to have the family time.
I think the biggest lesson for me that I've learned about God through life is that He doesn't always live up to our expectations. We have these expectations of what we want God to be and what we're hoping God to be, but He always lives up to His word. His word says, I'll never leave you. I'll never forsake you. I love you. I have great plans for you. You know, I can heal you. All these amazing promises. Sometimes we have these other expectations that we put on God in place, and then He doesn't meet it, and then we get mad at God.
If you just invite God into the process, He's just so faithful to respond to the little bit that we can give. He knows what it's like to suffer. God saw His Son suffer, and I think I would forget sometimes that the Lord knows what it's like to feel those things. I'm hearing Him so much more now than I ever have, because I'm learning to invite Him into the process.
I think it's through the process of life and what you go through that it pulls things out of you, because our nature is selfish, it's greedy, it's taking the easy way out. It's amazing how he uses children and the structure of family to understand this huge, amazing God. God is real. God has a plan for your life, for your family. There's something that God's calling your family to be a part of. And that's what differentiates the world parenting to a Christ home.
I think we're out of the thick of like the hardest things, and if we're not, I know that he's just still gonna be there no matter what.
God is love, and love comes from God. In 1 John, the Bible tells us that God is not only all-loving, but that He actually is love itself. The heart of the Parent Compass television show is to bring the transforming love of God to families everywhere. In every Parent Compass episode, true stories reveal family struggles and how their lives were radically changed by the love of God. Parent Compass, an award-winning television series, is completely funded by people like you. If you have been touched by God and you want to share God's love to others, would you please pass it on? Jesus tells us to go into all the world and to tell about Him. With your donation, you allow us to take this television show into many different nations and in many different languages, free of charge. And a portion of your donation goes to Parent Compass Outreach to feed starving children. Your gift does so much. To make your tax-deductible gift, go to parentcompass.tv/donate. That's parentcompass.tv/donate. And thank you for sending love and hope around the world.